All right. Well, thank you, Ashley, and thank you all for joining me on today's webcast. So, one of the cool things about Revit these days is that there are incremental releases throughout the year. So, you don't have to wait an entire year anymore once a new feature has been added. However, it has been about a year since our last What's New in Revit, so we might also discuss some features added in 2019.1 and point 2. All right. So here is an official list from Autodesk, including all of the new features. You can see that they have broken them down into 3 categories: connect, create, and optimize. This organizational structure was unveiled a couple of years ago as part of the Revit roadmap, and they have stuck to this structure for the development of the software. You can find this at any time by following the link at the bottom of the slide here, or a quick web search of Revit roadmap, and there you will find all the features that are in development or have already been implemented. It is a great place to get a really good idea of where the software is headed, big picture wise, and definitely worth a quick look around. I plan to cover most of these topics listed today, but not all. I can show some with screenshots, and others will do live inside the software. And of course, I will leave some time for Q&A. All right. So the first thing you will probably be faced with when you install the new software is upgrading existing projects. In a typical workflow, this is pretty straightforward, but with models shared in the cloud, it is a different story. Before we get into that, I wanted you to see the launch screen looks a little different, but you will see your BIM 360 projects listed on the bottom left. If you do not see any projects listed, one possible reason is that the files have not been upgraded yet. For this, you will need to go to the web interface and upgrade the project. So before we go any further, it is an easy process to upgrade your model, but it is a dangerous one. Of course, there is no going back, so you need to make absolutely certain the whole team is on board before you proceed. I might even launch the files in a previous version and do a save as locally before proceeding here. At any rate, I believe you will need to be a project admin for this. So make sure you click on the little 9-dot button. Here, I'll point that out for you. That's this thing right here. So you'll click on that and then select project admin. And you can see this slide is already at project admin. And from there, click on services, document management, then Revit model upgrade. It will take a second to find the models, but then all you have to do is click the upgrade button. Depending on the amount of files and file size, this could take anywhere from a few minutes to several hours. Therefore, I would plan to do this overnight or over a weekend for larger projects. I should point out that this is only upgrading files that are using BIM 360 Design. I don't believe it will upgrade files that are just being stored for use with BIM 360 Document Management. So if it was just uploaded with the web interface or desktop connector or through Revit but not work sharing enabled, those files will not be upgraded. So I thought this was super cool. This process used to be a nightmare in collaboration for Revit, since you had to create an entire new project site and of course, add all the new users and everything like that, or just keep the project on the same version. So now it is literally just one button click. One footnote here is that if you go back into Revit after upgrade and you are still not seeing your project, just try relaunching Revit and it should appear in your list. All right. So while we are discussing cloud models, I want to show you a new feature they added that will allow you to upload a file to your BIM 360 document management site directly from within Revit. Historically, you had to start a project, save it locally, then upload. With this, you can start a project from your template, save it to the cloud, and then enable it for work sharing later if you need to. So for this, all you have to do is basically start a file from scratch, do what you need to do to set it up, then click File, Save As, Cloud Model. From here, you can find the project you want to save to, then upload to the appropriate folder. And after a few seconds, you will see this message letting you know your model is saved to the cloud, and any changes you save will be saved to the cloud version of the model. So what we did not do was enable this for work sharing. This was just uploaded to the cloud for storage, and we'll get into the work sharing part later. So at a later date, if you do decide more people are going to work on this project and you want to enable work sharing, there's a new dialog box for models that were already on the cloud. When you click on the Collaborate tab Worksets button, this new box will pop up and make you check these little boxes. It basically makes you agree that you understand only users with BIM 360 Design will be able to work on the latest and greatest version. You can't undo work sharing with this type of file once it's enabled. And there's a reminder about clicking Save to save locally and Sync with Central to save to the cloud. All right, so now that we've upgraded our model, let's jump into the software and take a live look at the features listed on this slide. I'll give you a second to peruse the list here. And then after that, I've got some slides we can come and check out for some of the other improvements here. And I'll plan to jump around a little bit between the different industry-specific items. So we will start off with my personal favorite new feature, very universal, which allows for PDF underlay support. All right, so if you'll just bear with me for 1 second, I will transition to Revit. All right, so here is Revit 2020, and if you didn't install Revit 2019.1 or .2, you're going to see that the look is a little different, but everything is still here, just moved around a little bit. You can see all of your BIM 360 stuff will be listed here. You can change the site that you've been added to here, and all the projects will show. But I'm going to go ahead and start a new project just from the default template here. So I like to click on New. For this, we can use any of the templates. It doesn't matter. So if you go to the Insert tab, so Insert tab, and then there's a new button here for PDF. So historically, you could not import a PDF. It was just JPEG, or you'd have to convert a PDF to a JPEG. But we'll click on PDF import, browse to my file here, select it. Nothing crazy to point out here, but when I go ahead and click open, you'll see that this is a multi-page PDF. So I can expand this a little bit, and I'll see thumbnails of all the sheets that are in here. You could select which sheet you want. There's a little button here to change the size of the preview, so it gives you a better idea of what you're looking at. So I'll probably just choose this first sheet here. And this is also important down at the bottom here. You can choose the resolution. It goes from 72 DPI all the way up to 600. I've been using 300. And we'll go ahead and click OK. So this will get a little, will it go around in circles here for a second or two? And then it should allow us to place our PDF. And then there we go. Click to place, hit escape, and you'll notice you can use your standard modify tools. I could use move, copy, rotate. So it generally behaves just like a typical raster image that we've seen in the past. But we will be able to utilize some of that vector data, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that? So let's say I select it. You can click enable snaps up here, or the checkbox in the properties. And let's maybe draw in some walls here. So maybe I need this as an underlay. You could go to the wall tool, and maybe I want to pick finish face interior. And I love doing this. You can do the pick lines tool. And if I'm careful enough here, we'll get this on the proper side. So I meant to choose a better wall type here. So yeah, we'll do that for this wall. So you could just click on these lines and easily produce a drawing. So that's pretty awesome. I should also point out that this PDF came straight from a vector-based platform. I had exported this PDF from Revit. If it came from AutoCAD, it'll work as well. If you scanned in a drawing, it's not going to be able to pick up the snaps. All right, so in addition to the pick walls tool, you can also use things like the rectangle tool if you want, and it'll snap to these corners. So it'll snap to anything in your drawing that was vector-based. So let's talk about a few other things here. You'll notice that this drawing was at an 1/8 inch equals a foot. And I can verify that this came in at the proper scale. So I had this dimension here. Let's see here. Yeah, so if I were to model in something here, yeah, let's model that segment. So it's not going to be exact, but we're pretty close. So you can tell it's the right scale. How did it do that? Well, that's based upon the scale of the view you're in. So we're at an 1/8 inch down here. So it automatically brings it in at that scale factor. So if I click on this, you can see the horizontal scale and vertical scale listed here at 96. So 1/8 inch would be 8 times 12, 96. So let's see what happens if we were to bring in another sheet. Let's do that. So let's go to insert, PDF, PDF import. Let's choose another sheet. I think I had a sheet with a couple plan details on here that were at 1/4 inch. Yeah, let's bring that in. Choose the correct DPI again. A few more circles. And I'll click to place that. So you can see that the scale factor is going to be set to 1/8 inch equals a foot. If I had brought it in at, if I had previously set this to a 1/4 inch, it would have brought it in at the right scale, but you can always select it and change it later. So I've got this lock proportions button selected. So maybe I'll change this to 48. And it'll change everything for me and shrink it down. Now you can see it's the right size. So again, I'd enable snaps and I'd be able to work with this and be good to go. So really cool new feature. Really enjoy it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one up here. So I could probably use this. Let me just undo everything here. We'll go to our from scratch file here. So if I go to the architecture panel, click on the wall tool, they added something called elliptical walls. So previously you couldn't do this. I had to like use Dynamo to get an elliptical wall in here, which was fun for me, but probably not so fun for a lot of people. So if you click on the wall type you want here, I'm going to go ahead and set my height. And here's the new feature, the ellipse tool. So you'll click your center point and then your length and then your width. So it's really like 3 clicks to get it going. And see how long this takes to generate here. There we go. So maybe I'll draw a few more. This is kind of fun. So I'll start the wall tool again. Maybe for this one, we'll do an inner core. Yeah, maybe we'll just do a generic wall type for this. Might go a little quicker. So I'll do center point again, length, width. I'll draw in one more here. And then let's go ahead and take maybe I'll drop in a camera view here. So that should work. Let's see here. Kind of use the walk tool, see what we got here. SD for a shaded view. All right, I could live with that. All right, so that's the elliptical walls tool. Now, for the next one, I did have a previous file set up, so I'm going to open that now. File, open, project, and I've got this basic little office kind of drawn up here, nothing crazy. So they added something called path of travel here. Now this the button's kind of hidden, but very, very cool. I can think of a few different uses for it. So analyze tab, and then down to path of travel. There it is, all the way down at the end. So what you can do is you can click on any point inside your building and any point outside your building. And I don't know if you saw what it did, but it added the elbows in here. So it found the path of travel. And then, so I could do this for any 2 points. A few examples. Maybe if you've got, if you're doing like a hospital and you've got a nurse's station, you want to make sure that they're within a certain amount of feet from every room, or definitely even for egress too. Very useful. So let's see what else we can do with this thing. Well, if I select the, move my controls here. Yeah, so I want to take a look under the hood and show you how this is working. So there's a little tiny down arrow here, and this will get you into the properties. So what it's doing is it's considering everything an obstacle except what you have checked in this list. So all these Revit categories are being treated as an obstacle except doors. And additionally, there's kind of like a Z direction to think about here. So it's not gonna, or let me rephrase that. It's only going to analyze stuff within 6'8" to 8 inches above the level. Yeah, one other thing that I thought was interesting here is it'll also only find what's in the crop view. If things have been hidden in view, it won't calculate those either, or it won't view those as obstacles. All right, so let's see what else we can do with this thing. Yeah, let's set up a view filter here, because I think this is pretty neat, and this is kind of useful. So if I go to Visibility and Graphics, go to my Filters tab, I can add a new one here. I'll click Edit New. We'll just call it Filter 1. But if we scroll down here, we can see Path of Travel lines. We can enable that. Maybe I'll say, for path of travel, I want the length. Let's go with, if the length is greater than maybe 80 feet. We'll add that in there. So if this filter is picking up any path of travel line that's over 80 feet, and we'll give it a color override. Say okay, okay. And there you go. So this one right here is over 80 feet. So I'm going to have to shrink it down or exit through a different door. All right. So you can also schedule these things. I don't think I'm going to take the time to run through that right now. But you'll also notice that on your, if you select them, there's line styles. So this path of travel lines line style will show up. These are going to be view specific. They're kind of like, yeah, they can be tracked like a typical modeled element, but they're really view specific. They're kind of like, they behave, they kind of take the best of both worlds of an annotation object and a model object and combine them together. Let's see what else we have. All right, so let's do some scope box enhancements here. So maybe for this one, I'll create another new project. Yeah, so let's just say we've got maybe a main building here and then a little addition. I don't know how many of you are familiar with scope boxes, but they're super handy. They're probably a little underutilized, but pretty awesome. But there was a nice enhancement to that. So to set this up, let's say I go to View, scope box, and I'll just draw in a little window around here, and I can select the scope box and say, all right, this is maybe for my west addition. And what's new is you can now, well, hold on a minute. Let me table that thought. There's now a parameter for in the level view for scope box. So I can assign this view to that scope, and then the crop region will automatically match up to the scope. Now that's not what's new. What's new is if you go and create a view list. So let's go to schedules, view list. Yeah, I'll take view name. Let's get obviously scope box. Maybe discipline, associated level. If we had these on sheets, we could do that. Title on sheet. That's probably good enough for now. So now this is schedulable, so you could take any of these other views and assign them to that scope. So now that we've got this little schedule, I want to point out something else that was added to the software. You can now zoom in to a schedule view. So if you hold the control key down, you can scroll in and make it as big as you want or as small as you want. And there you go. All right, so let's do another one here. I'm going to go back to, you know what, let's switch for a minute. Maybe we'll utilize the mechanical template for this one. So if I go to File, New Project, let's do mechanical template, say OK. Maybe I'll just draw in a wall for reference here. Probably don't even need that, but let's say I go back to the Systems tab and place a air terminal. Now, here's what's different. You now have two parameters here, elevation from level and offset from host. So let's say I want these to be 9 feet. In most cases, the offset's going to be one and the same here. But when I place these, you can see the difference now. So before it used to just be one parameter and it was a lot harder to use, but now this will be easier to work with in schedules and tags and things like that. So I was pretty happy with this. So I think you guys will find it a lot more user-friendly as well. One other thing that they kind of slid in there within the past year, I'm not sure exactly when it came about, was that when you draw in a duct, it used to be really hard to tell where the offset was located. So it says 9 feet above your level, but it never said middle elevation before. But now we know, and we can use these 3 parameters here. So we have the top elevation, middle, and bottom. And if you change any one of them, it's going to adjust accordingly. So if I change this to 8 feet, it's not going to change the size of the duct, but it'll just change its elevation up or down. So I thought that was pretty nice. All right, so let's go ahead and do some structural improvements now. So if I go to File, New Project, let's do Structural Template, click OK. This one has to do with some steel connections improvements, which I thought was pretty awesome. So let's say I go to structure and maybe I'm just going to work with what's out of our default here. So I'm going to put in a couple beams. Nothing crazy. Let's put in a few more here. All right, so maybe I'll copy some of these. All right, so if I go into 3D here, let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to turn off my analytical model, maybe do SD for a shaded view. So if you're not familiar with the connection tool, I would encourage you to take a thorough look at it because it was introduced a few years ago, but it's just gotten better and better every year. So the first thing you need to do to set this up is click on this little tiny button here and get these steel connections going here. So you've got a whole list of connections types. So I'm probably just going to grab maybe a base plate, add it over here. So these are all the ones that are available, and this is how you add them to the project. And I'm just going to grab a standard clip angle and just click OK. And that should have added them. Now, what you need to do is you need to tell the software that this is a connection. So you select these, go back to Structure tab, click Connection, and right there it adds in this little node here. This is like a little analytical connection kind of thing. So if you go over to the type selector, you can add the appropriate connection. So I put this clip angle in here. We're not seeing it. That's because at a medium level of detail, it's not going to show. You got to switch to a fine level of detail, and sure enough, there it is. So if I select it, you might not have known that. If you select something and then orbit, it keeps it centered. So what you can do is, and this has been drastically, none of that was new. So what's new is if you, let me zoom out so you can see everything here. And this is what's awesome here. If you right click on this, go up to propagate connection. I'm going to leave that on the screen for a second so you can see it. Propagate connection. Boom. It just finds all the like connections that are visible in this view and just puts them in there for you. So if that wasn't awesome enough, they've now taken these connections and they've integrated it with the standard Revit language of family types. If you click Edit Type, you can make a duplicate of this family type or rename it something more specific for this case where you're using it. But you can go into the properties here and really customize this thing. So you have so much more control now of how you utilize these things. So I was pretty excited about that. So hopefully you guys will get a chance to use that. Maybe, yeah. So yeah, we got time. Why not? So let's say I just put a couple columns in here. I just wanted to show the base plate one just for the heck of it. So let's say I've got these columns in here. Maybe if I go to 3D, select one of them. Let's go to steel connection. So even though it's not connected to anything, it knows that you're going to have a base plate connection here. you can go to your type selector, drop that in. Same thing, you could right click and say propagate connection, and it's going to populate every other like element or like connection. So you can see I've got a little bit of a overlap here. It's no problem. You would just drill into the type properties, and for this base plate, you could just find the dimensions, and let's find the yeah, you can just find where you need the bolt location and just go ahead and change the spacing, and you're good. I think, let's see here. Yeah, let's do that. Should do it. So change some of the parameters around, get what you need. Oh, I was way off there. Oh well. But that's pretty much that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at one electrical enhancement here. So again, for this, I already did just like a little basic setup to save some time here. So if I go to open project, I've got a little kind of office, or like kind of like a classroom layout, a couple panels in here. So this has to do with how home run wiring is shown. So if I select these, create a power circuit as normal, maybe I'll assign it to one of my panels, and then maybe I circuit this one here. So these are both going to the same panel, but if I tab select, put some arc wire on both of them. I'm not sure everybody knew you could do this, but if you need to connect these together, you can select the home run here, drag the end, and let me zoom out so you can see. As soon as I connect that, you get a double arrow there. Now, what's new is the fact that you have a lot more control about how these display. So if I go to systems, let's go to electrical settings right here. Let's go to wiring settings, the top folder here. This is where you tell it, so arrow for multi-circuit home runs, you can tell it, yeah, I want multiple arrows or a single or whatever, and then you have the ability to change it to whatever you want as far as how it looks. So yeah, I could, just to show you what we're talking about here, let's say I want to open 90-degree arrow. There you go. All right. Let's see what else we got here. We just did some electrical. I did talk about ductwork. That reminds me that duct offset to the bottom, middle, and top that I showed you, that will also work with cable tray. So one other thing, this was kind of easy, nothing crazy here, but let's say you had a sheet here. I'll add a couple sheets. If you have a legend view, I can probably make one real quick. These are pretty easy. So if I go to view, so you've always been able to add legend views to more than one sheet at a time, but now you can copy and paste them so they're in the same place. So I'm not going to do anything crazy here. I'll just make a quick one. So I'll go to annotate. Just so we have something here. Maybe I'll go to detail lines. Just drawing a little box here. What? And yeah, I'll add in a legend component. Why not? Maybe find a lighting fixture or something like that. Yeah, I'll use a desk, why not? Okay, so you can click on it and change the view. All right, so now that I've got that, here's all I wanted to show you. Once you drag this and drop it onto a sheet, you can copy it to your clipboard and then go to the next sheet and then go to manage. Modify. Paste aligned, current view, and you're good to go. So there's another thing that they added, and that was an enhancement to something that was added either last year or the year before. And that has to do again with view filters. In here in your filter rules, they added the OR feature last year or the year before, but what happened was you were kind of restricted by whatever categories you chose. So if I was doing multiple categories here, maybe if I was doing doors, windows, and walls, you're kind of restricted here to just the like parameters, but now you have the ability to choose which one you want. So maybe I want the door width or height, and then I'll add an OR rule here. Maybe I want the wall thickness. So that was something that you couldn't do before. So where's my wall width? There we go. So let's say we needed some sort of graphic override. We can make that and just apply it to our view and work with it from there. All right, so one other one here is a SketchUp enhancement. Let me show you how that works. So let's do another new project here. All right, so if I go to Insert, Link CAD, and change my drop-down menu here from DWG to all supported or just SKP files, I can find a SketchUp file that I had. Now, make sure when you export from SketchUp that it's to a 2018 version year. For some reason, it doesn't work with 2019. So click Open here, and you can see it loaded in here. So that's nothing new, but what is new is now you can get the color, you can snap to these things easier, and it works a lot better than it did historically. Let's talk about materials improvements. So if I go to Manage Materials, you can now filter by different materials. That's new. You can click this button here and you can change the thumbnail size. So this is kind of ridiculously too big, but you get the idea here. And you can also notice that they've built upon the expansion of the materials catalog. These orange ones, or these ones with the little orange flag in the corner, these are the old materials, but they've gone through and added a whole bunch of new ones into the asset library. I think they added like 100 more this year. So go ahead and take a look at those. Those will be nice and fun. Let's see here. All right, so now we're going to jump back into PowerPoint, and I have a few really good slides for the remaining features. This one, so we have a lot on rebar here. A lot was done with that. So shape-driven rebar now snaps more intuitively to the concrete cover when you copy or move them. By not snapping automatically, very small segment length adjustments are eliminated, and the rebar geometry remains consistent. Because of this, no new rebar positions are created. Previously, a rebar would snap to the cover if it was within a half bar the diameter from that cover. The bars will now snap automatically for operations like dragging individual bar segment handles, sketching a rebar, or placing a new bar. Shape-driven rebar segments are now automatically constrained only to the concrete host faces that are in range of each segment. This change in behavior ensures that bars will no longer incorrectly connect to faces that are far away and react to the changes of those faces. You can still manually select any face as a constraint target parallel to the bar segment, even if that face is not within the range. Standard bars now snap to stirrups automatically only if the standard bars pass through the stirrups. When a standard and stirrup set are distributed in the same direction, they have parallel bending planes, so none of the standard bar segments will automatically snap to the stirrup segments. When you manually select a constraint target, that constraint is set as preferred. If the constrained bar segment is parallel to that face, it will keep that constraint when moving the bar in the same host, even if that face is outside of the range of the bar. So when copying the rebar from one host to a similar one, it will automatically match the selected or preferred constraints from the target to the destination host. So a lot to digest there, but lots of good improvements. They've really kind of taken rebar to the next level here. And more on the rebar, multi-rebar annotations can now be used to dimension the position of rebar sets with respect to the concrete host faces or to any other dimension reference in Revit. The tag inside the multi-rebar annotations only extracts information from the rebar references, while the others are used for dimensions only. To use multi-rebar annotations, there must be at least two rebar references or one rebar and one regular reference. Let's see what else we got here. So for freeform rebar, multi-rebar annotations can now be used to dimension the freeform rebar sets with planar and parallel bars in any view that is perpendicular to all the bar planes of the bars in the set. So multi-rebar annotations can also be used for dimensioning rebar sets and structural elements inclined with respect to the view, like a ramp that's displayed in plan view. The rebar sets can be either freeform or shape-driven and must be made up of single segment parallel bars with or without hooks. So let's see what else we've got. This one is pretty neat. So with any type of reinforcement, including shape-driven or freeform rebars, can be hosted to model in place structural elements of the stairs category. So all you have to do is create a stairs component using the model in place, and the rebars, it's not automatic. There's some work here, but it's just an expansion of the already robust feature. So this one is just for structural in general. They've updated the existing dimensioning and tagging tools have been extended to help you create more accurate and readable drawings. You can now dimension the radial dimension or the diameter of a circular opening along the steel member. You can now insert a dimension between the holes or shear studs by picking their centers. Multiple tags for weld symbols can be inserted in any view, regardless of the visual style set for this view. So I thought that was a pretty good improvement too. So this is a really good one back to the electrical side. So prior to this release, electrical designers using Revit employed several workarounds to create a document. To create and document feed-through lug panel connections and multi-section panels. So with this improvement, instead of always employing breaker slot connection, panels can now be connected through feed-through lugs. The downstream panels loads will be totaled on the parent panel. So this improved system logic, making it easier to verify load calculation results with feed-through lugs are as expected. You can test a panel circuit numbering option with both breaker and feed-through lugs and modify existing panel schedule templates to similarly report the feed-through lug load summary information. So a lot of great stuff here. So of course I would be remiss if I didn't mention Dynamo. So this is a little bit of a shift here. So all right, so Dynamo for Revit, if you're not familiar, is a computational design extension. It's now considered a feature of Revit. That's not super new, but and accordingly, Dynamo is no longer a separate application. The icon in the upper left corner of the Dynamo user interface now displays a small Revit icon to reflect the update. But here's the big thing. You will not be able to update or use a different version of Dynamo with Revit 2020. So this will simplify the process, and with this unified experience, you will have Dynamo 2.1 installed at launch, and this is tied to Revit. So as the product team releases updates for Revit, this will now be the only way that Dynamo will receive updates. Running any version of Dynamo other than 2.1 will be unsupported moving forward. And also, one version of Dynamo will not be supported across multiple versions of Revit. So this is good because you will spend less time managing your installations and just more time using Dynamo. So functionality speaking, there was a good addition to Dynamo as seen on this slide. You can now use Dynamo to accelerate the insertion of multiple steel connections based on the user-defined roles. So if you have a chance and you're a Dynamo user, definitely find that package and install it. Pretty good stuff there. So I'll kind of speed up a little here so we have a chance to get through the rest of the stuff. You might have noticed that the background processes seemed a lot quicker when I was working with the connections in the steel. When they first added those, I felt like it made Revit very unstable and prone to crash, and it just took forever. But they've really streamlined it and made it so it doesn't bog down the software. It doesn't crash. I haven't been able to make it crash yet. I'm sure I could if I tried, but it just seems a lot quicker and a lot more stable. So that's really about all I wanted to point out on this one here. And actually, I haven't worked on a project this big yet with this many connections, but you will get an alert for these background processes, which I think is pretty neat. And I have not had a chance to personally test that out yet. There's some new parameters for steel connections. So there's a parameter for plate width and length. So you'll be able to schedule and tag these things and just further your documentation and detailing. And then trying to speed through these here. I think we got one more. Yeah, so this has to do with on the MEP side, you can change the service feature. It's been enhanced, especially for fabrication ductwork, to allow the selection of the service to be swapped. So that was all kind of a mouthful here, but I think we got one more. And again, this was one I haven't had the pleasure of testing out yet, but you will be able to create parts from direct shape geometry or stuff from InfraWorks. And so instead of just getting like a big blob inserted here, you can break the individual modeled elements into parts, which if I can get it to work, I thought was pretty awesome. All right, so that is pretty much it. I had intended to stop a little earlier and allot some time for some Q&A, but if there were any leftover burning questions, we'd be happy to address them now, or if you just type them into the question panel, we'd be happy to get back to you on those. So I think that's pretty much it, unless Brett, if you had anything that came up that you thought was of interest, or anything outstanding, I'd be happy to take care of that. If not, Ashley, I'll hand it back over to you.
Dan, there is one unanswered question.
All right. Was that the one about, did you see which one that had to do with?
Updates or enhancements to panel schedules with regard to phasing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. With looking into phasing in the panel schedule. Yeah, I didn't see anything on that, but I'd be happy to look into that and see if they had made any improvements to that. So yeah, I would say we'll give it another few seconds if anybody's got any other questions. If not, go ahead and type them in and we'll be happy to get back with you.
Okay, Dan, well, thanks for the presentation. I'll keep my eye out, but otherwise I'll wrap things up for us. If you think of additional questions, though, you can simply reply to that confirmation or reminder email you received from GoToWebinar. We can get those to Dan or your sales rep or whoever to get your questions answered. Once again, if you could take a few moments to fill out the survey, we would appreciate it. It will just automatically pop up as we close down today. It does look like one more has come through.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Any improvements? No, so there was a question about whether anything had changed with text. No, not to my knowledge. I haven't seen anything on that. But as always, if there's something that you would like to see, definitely go to the Revit ideas page and check that out. So real quick, this was the page that I was talking about before about the Revit roadmap, but there's also the Revit ideas page. Forget the URL here, but you can go here and you can type in you could search for ideas here, and then if you find something you like, submit it and send it to your coworkers, get them to upvote it, and you'll get a response from Autodesk if it gets enough votes, and you'll see it. Some of the stuff came directly from the Revit ideas page. If it had a star, something that came from that idea page was implemented into the software. All right, so that's my spiel there. Sorry, Ashley.
No, that's okay. And if there's nothing else, I guess we will just wrap up. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you again soon.